Hello, everyone. It's Michael Jaco with Unleashing Intuition Secrets. I'm joined today by Tom Althouse. He's right here. So, isn't that great? Be able to do a live show with Tom Althouse. Very, very amazing gentleman. He is the creator of the Matrix movie series, which was the screenplay was stolen from him by Hollywood. And we've talked about this in several shows for several years now. And it's interesting. Things are coming to a head, because as we're going to talk about, he had some of his material that was stolen back in 2012, just a few days ago, that was placed back in his house. Wow.
Yeah.
So things are moving, I think, very, very quickly. Like we talked about, how white hats, the good guys, wherever they may be, whoever they may be, are trying to help us. Tom, thanks for joining us. I
am so excited to be here. I think it's the first time we actually got to meet in your home and do a show like this.
And this is cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the way it should be. Good. I'm glad you came here to take care of some business, because they're still trying to steal your information, and you're making moves to overcome that still. But in the meantime, amazing things are happening. So let's go into your original script real quickly. Give guys an overview.
Okay, so this is, again, the original script, and it's the only one that is a copyrighted script that an author has of The Matrix. No one else has it. No other claimants have a full script certified. So, and this one has the 1998 stamp. It's hard to see here, but a 1998 stamp, which is the one that was used on set in 1999. And that's been made clear by fight choreographers and others connected that were there on set. And they also emphasized that there was a 20-foot rule that if you're within 20 feet, you could be fired. And if you think about that, that seems like kind of an absurd rule. If you're trying to work as a team, a union team, to get these things created, why would you instill that and enforce that even? But that was done so that nobody would see this material when this was in one hand, and then the storyboard was the other, to create it. And in here is everything from Train Station, Jackson X, Squiddies, Blue Pill, Red Pill, you name it.
Right. All the stuff we've talked about over the last several years. And what you intended for this information to be, and how they manipulated that information. So they're controlling consciousness, but you were trying to awaken consciousness. Tell us a little bit about that.
Exactly. I felt like my calling was to do this faithfully, to basically take a download that was being given, right, Michael? And it was like I was given what I considered almost like boot camp training, or what you had gone through, not to the extent of physical extraneous, but it was actually a mental boot camp where I had to learn humility, compassion. And I think that's very telling. If that's the requirements that were put upon me, whether people believe that or not, that was instilled, it's like that says something about the powers behind this, that they wanted, I got the impression they wanted us to all do our parts and basically bring us together as humanity, that we solve problems together. And that became a core theme in the piece itself. So I felt like a scribe or a servant, and I was amazed. I also had the sense that I'm experiencing this for the first time, and I had a deep sense of responsibility that I had to do it properly without inflicting my own bias in.
Wow. And we talked how you basically were being groomed to be kind of like an Elon Musk. And when that didn't work out, then Elon Musk showed up.
That's exactly right. I was given a series of questions when I was at the religious right and being courted by the FBI. I was actually on John Walsh's program when it was a season premiere of America's Most Wanted. So I'm taken to lunch or the dinner with John Walsh and FBI heads. And they gave me a card that said, please extend every courtesy to Tom Althouse. So I was being groomed by both religious right to be the face of the Christian Coalition, which basically my job would be using dimples, blue eyes at the time, blonde hair, to mislead people into steering their way towards Pat Robertson's political agenda and the cabal's plans.
Wow.
And I was made privy to certain aspects of it, such as a reset of a one world order where they're actually going to simulate the return of Christ using Hollywood elements. So it's just, and that's now coming out. As crazy as it sounds, it's now coming out in Toronto Star and other publications, where you'll see articles. I have one for you later where I can show you to attach on here if you'd like, where it said that Pat Robertson was concerned about getting enough power up to the man-made mountain so he can be seen interviewing Christ when Christ returned. So that's why at the ending of the Matrix story, you got identical figures facing off, but they wanted to take out any of the religious messages. And so they turned it into Neo facing off Smith looking alike. But that ending is right here with the people, the identical figures facing off into the pulse wave coming out where one throws the one in the crater and the earth regreening again and the little girl pointing to the sun. That's all from this. And if you counter in also the Wachowskis, and this is made clear in articles, and those that are fans of the work will note this, the Wachowskis said they had a big argument on set, basically, about how to end it. They said everybody wanted to blow it up to finish it because the whole spine was ripped out of the story. When you reinvert and take everything out in a visual storyboard and try to put it together, it's like taking a Porsche, and what do you got left if you're taking the parts all out of order and you're not a mechanic, not a writer? So what happens is they totally blew the ending and said, we're going to keep the same ending as it is. Well, that's interesting because what same ending? You already have a 20-foot rule. No one can see it. And if you already have it written and approved, where's the debate coming from? Why are people saying they should blow it up? Why are they claiming everybody said to blow it up? Because you unravel the story. And Joel Silver actually said that he hoped it tied together in 2003 on set. He said he hopes when they watch the rushes in this article on set that they would tie together and it would actually, be cohesive. Never did.
Wow. So that's so in your mind, you were going to bring out this just amazing information that was downloaded to you from source,
including tech. And that raises the question. I'm glad you brought that up, because why is God, if you will, giving us Neuralink technology? And I'd like your thoughts on this, because what you think, because it's like, to give that's a Pandora's box. That's a thing that can enslave us all. Is it that he was giving it so that we would have ownership of it? Or did he already, or he or she, whatever, foresee that it would be taken and that was part of the plan? Because the premise in this piece right here was that man tries to outwit God and God outwits man in the end. So he allows man to imitate revelations. And in the end, man uses that. So I think it's a pretty interesting premise, but I love your thoughts.
Yeah, so my thoughts today, actually, Apple said that they would endorse or help sponsor people with implants that connected with Apple computers, phones, and everything. So we're moving in that direction. So we have to decide as humanity whether we want to go down that road or not, whether we want to give up our control because that's obviously something that can be taken over. Yeah, we can control something. You don't think that could be reversed? Yeah, that's pretty much what we're moving towards.
Well, Michael, you just took us right to the screenplay again. Part of the download that I was supposed to faithfully follow, right? And it was made very clear during that training that I had, which was amazing. And I just wrote a chapter for a book with Lisa Sherwood about that. Nice. So I just did that today. But addressing that very thing. But I'd like to share about it too, is that in it, you have all these things happening to Neo, Thomas A., where, no, I didn't name the character after myself. That was Wachowski's throwing it in to mock. But in it, Neo's enhancer, or Neuralink, is diseased from the start to go off at a certain time where it will short circuit but act as a tracking device, and also where it would lead him to underground. The architects had it all planned out. So these devices that Elon Musk is pushing, it's not even his tech, and he doesn't fully understand it, just like the Wachowskis didn't fully understand the script. But they're all endorsed by Warner Brothers to make the claims. And I want to point out again that the Warner Brothers, when they gave the Wachowskis the green light to steal the work in 1995, what did they do immediately, Michael? They announced, we want to do Jackson Neck for real. Think of it. So what they did was try to force Warner Brothers' hands to say, okay, you gave us the story, we want the tech. They got greedy. They failed at everything they did, their painting business, their schooling, everything. They failed at everything they did. And said they'd have to pack their bags and leave Hollywood because they failed as writers on Assassins. Another writer was brought in. And so then they got greedy when they're given the green light after I was broken. And they said, we want to do Jackson Neck for real. They never said that again. What they're saying is, we want to get credit for the Neuralink. We want to get credit for the tech back in 1995. Now, Elon's not even in the picture at that point.
Wow.
He starts to be groomed in 1999, I think it is, or 2010 or something. With Iron Man 2, that's when they stick him at the raceways. And he's not there for the sake of the story. That must be a nightmare for the writers, where they're like, we're just sticking Elon Musk in. Why? Because we're promoting him. We're going to groom him first. Then they shame him in Sheldon, again by Warner Brothers and HBO. They shame him in Sheldon, where he's stealing young Sheldon's rocket tech as himself. And then in Star Trek Discovery, when they're going to give it to him, right around 2016, 2017, when Elon's going to be given by Warner Brothers the claim for Neuralink, that's why it doesn't show up yet, Star Trek Discovery, where they have in neural enhancer, all in the same scene. They repeat it. Then they say Neuralink in the same episode in Star Trek Discovery. I think it's season 1, episode 6.
Wow.
Which is
and
them.
This is all stuff that you came up with in the Matrix.
That's right. I actually called it neural enhancer. I called it a brain enhancer, neural enhancer, because it's supposed to enhance. So
they steal your information, which you downloaded.
Yeah.
It's just basically you download it for all of humanity. And
Right.
then they steal that and they twist it and they take it all these different directions. So that's interesting about Elon Musk being, in this, he's stealing rocket tech and now he's got a rocket. And he says, I'm not a rocket. I don't know anything about rockets.
Yeah.
Duh. Yeah. And you don't know anything about electric cars and you don't know anything about Neuralink, just like Bill Gates doesn't know anything about Microsoft.
No.
Because they questioned him one time. Could you tell us about the chip manufacturing, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, no.
That's right.
Like, what do you mean, no?
No.
Like, because he can't tell you because he doesn't know.
I know. I wish there was a program where I could be on with Elon Musk and we could talk about the baby, talk about the tech and what the implications are, because they're getting it all backwards. They were still talking about having pins on the Neuralink, filaments that were microscopic, basically thin filaments that would pierce into your sensitive areas of your brainstem. And it's like, that's in the beginning. In the beginning, they're actually imitating the original work. In The Immortals, you have the interrogation scene. The first scene I wrote, the first scene they did is the interrogation scene also. And they have, in mine, you have the Neo character being spiked with this pin-like device in the back of his neck where Neo actually winces, where he's given a tracking device. So he'll behave himself and they can monitor him. And that's the precursor of the Neuralink in the story.
Wow.
And then later you have an adaptive collar that doesn't impale any sensitive, organs or items or material or skin. It's actually an adaptive collar that allows the transference, like the temporal bone, to work the Neuralink. Now you're going to see that happening later, but they seem like they just didn't do their homework. But that's what's so fascinating about it is the Wachowskis really wanted to have credit for that tech, but I think Warner Bros. Knew that would just be outlandish. Yeah. But Elon Musk being an engineer, they can then make that claim. But I'll tell you, Michael, it lays out the same thing what they did with the copyright. They took the copyright, and besides, saying commissioned and ordering Tom Hanks to claim it as authorship, the Immortals title, because they don't have one on the Matrix, any kind of copyright on it. They also then said that the investment companies, like the different banks and investment companies, were the ones that created the material. So it doesn't follow they would take an engineer who wouldn't come up with these ideas, but would be the one responsible for facilitating such a design, and take a failed engineer and give him credit. They thought that would be plausible for audiences to understand. So just like Tom Hanks being an actor, maybe he got the writing bug and wrote The Immortals. But I think it's really interesting how they think we're that dumb.
Yeah. And, they get away with it because they basically steal all this information. They put it somewhere else. So you don't know really where it's coming from. Now, you have had a lot of people that have backed you. One of those people is George Michael.
Yes.
And when George Michael was going to testify for you, he mysteriously died.
He died in 2016. I think it was 2016 Christmas Day or something. If you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the day. They like to pick holidays. A lot of the horrors that happen to you are on your birthdays. It'll be on holidays. I don't know if that's a satanic thing or a ritualistic thing, but maybe it's to have greater impact or send a message to others. But George Michael died, and they say his heart gave out on Christmas. Well, that's when they have finally finished throwing the case. And what's interesting is, like I was showing you earlier, if you go to the page here, I think
now look at this. What's the date on this original work?
This particular one is 1998, and you can actually see it. So 1998, used on set in 1999. Now keep in mind, there's no copyright on the Matrix. In fact, the Warner Bros. Attorneys, Michael, say that they have no working drafts whatsoever. It's on tape, on their own tape. And the beauty of that recording is that their supplied attorney with the suspended license gave me his wrong tape recorder back after I recorded everything. So that's God. That's God.
Wow.
And so
we have talked before about George Michael.
Yes.
And George Michael was supposed to be in here writing like,
Well, that's
you
the
know,
thing.
music.
Yes.
So look
yes.
at this last page, guys.
Yeah,
They already
so-
had him written in
at the bottom.
at the bottom.
So George Michael, Praying for Time.
Praying for Time.
Which is the perfect song for the ending of The Matrix. It talks about the wounded skies above. It talks about what's over here is over there. I mean, if you look at this song and take it from the standpoint of a Matrix narrative, do it. I'd ask people to look at that. Play it again and think of it as Matrix ending credits and watch what you get. Instead, they did something like Rage of the Machine or something. Of course, the Wachowskis went broad and big because they didn't, you know, if you don't know what you're doing, then you go broad and big. So, yeah. So anyway, but George Michael, that last page is very telling because that means that he reviewed this full script in 93 before it went in. Because I asked him and his company, I said, could you check this and see if you would give your approval for us to enter it with your music as the final credits? Wow. And the quote, basically what he said to me is very, very congenial. He said, let's send it in and see where it goes.
Yeah.
That's what he said. So we did. It was very, very gracious.
Praying for Time. Wow.
Perfect ending piece.
So now we're at that point where we have been praying for time, and now we are in that time.
And that's what's so wild with what's happening in the homes, right? What's happening now. So you're going to lead into that. That's fine.
Yeah. So, you know, we're basically waking up. All of us are like, you know, I'm here back on YouTube. I'm having this show on YouTube. I was canceled out of YouTube for years. And it's just on a whim and a prayer. Just well, why don't I try and see if I can get back on YouTube? I have this old channel that I never like, you know, asked them why can't I? Because they would normally say no, or you're not coming back. And so I was like, I think things have changed. And so I asked. I said, you know, I don't really think I did anything wrong with this channel. And they're like came back to me like within 24 hours, and they said, you know, you're right. You got your channel back. Boom. So here I am. So things are changing. And they're giving us stuff back.
Yeah.
Tell us about what you just got back.
Mind-blowing, Michael. It's mind-blowing. Wow. It's like what they did was with that George Michael situation, which God bless him, a great, great man. I want to honor him right now.
Absolutely.
That man, he was
giving me chills right now.
Yeah, empathetic. He was giving. He was one of those artists that really wanted to make a better world, basically. And his music reflects that. And so I felt an affinity with him in this project, like it was meant to be. He was the first person that came to mind. Wow. And the song seemed to be written for the piece. And that's what I told him. It seems like just made to be. So anyway, thanks to him for what he's done and the sacrifices he made. But here's the deal. In 2016, he's taken out because what Warner Brothers' strategy was, after throwing the case, they did not want any evidence of any drafts or screenplays. Keep in mind, they said on that tape, we have no working drafts. It's a hands down win in a fair venue in court. We have all the drafts. Now that's what we're leading into here, is that those main drafts, everything from pre-96 was taken. And let me just lay a setting out here. Yeah. In 2012 at dinner, the attorney that was provided me, Tony Rankin of Maui, was classmates of lead attorney for Warner Brothers of Caldwell, Leslie and Proctor, a transgender firm, of course, with Wachowskis. They all went to University of Berkeley, and they're all defense attorneys. So he solicits me and my family and says, I'm going to represent you, $100,000 in. Here's the deal. He comes on board and says, okay, let's have a dinner at your house. And is this all the evidence? He comes to my house on a Saturday and goes, is this everything? You can imagine where this is going. It reminds me of Kevin Spacey in Pulp Fiction, where the guy says, have you talked to anybody yet? And all the audience is going, don't say you haven't talked to anybody else, because then he gets shot. And he's like, boyo thing. It's like, oh God. Well, I was right there, because he's like, is this all the evidence? And I'm going like Kevin Spacey, yes. And then his phone goes off and he's like, I have to take this call. Are you kidding me? You got to take a call in my dining room at dinner at my house and tell me I have to leave my own dining room because you just got a call after asking me if this is all the evidence. Well, you're supposed to trust your attorney. Well, I didn't realize he had a suspended license, that he was classmates with the Warner Brothers attorney, and that he was a defense attorney. So anyway, we leave the room. My family leaves the room. We're waiting for a long time, and you can guess what happens. The poor man's patent that was on the table, and I'll lead into the scripts that restored, is ripped open. He rips it open. He didn't waste any time under their instruction on that call. So what happens, not the first time it happened. And so he gets instruction on ripping open the poor man's patent. The full script's taken out, and he pulls out the notarized statement out of it, which is a poor man's patent, is when you mail your work to yourself and you have postal stamp on it, which shows this is when it was sealed on this date, and it proves that you created the work at a certain date. It sets it, just like copyrights.
Interesting.
So it's a poor man's patent. It doesn't cost you much but a stamp and postage.
Cool.
So anyway, that was there on the table too. He rips it open, very much a concern for Warner Brothers, pulls out the full script, pulls out the notarized statement. The problem was on the back of the notarized statement was the first page of the story treatment. So he's ripping out the first page of the story treatment. It doesn't make any sense that that would be what's left in there. He shoves it down my son's art box. He was 8 years old at the time, my son Aiden. And he shoves it down the bottom of the box, destroying his artwork, wrecking up that little profile thing of himself and all that stuff, which is pissing me off. And then shoves down the screenplay was reviewed by Tricia Fike in 1995. Now, here's where it gets interesting. So all that was done, so evidence is destroyed. That's why you plan an attorney, right? You plan an attorney to do this, get access to your evidence. And they'll ask you that question. So what happens now? How long is it since 2010 or 2012? I'm sorry. It's like
13 years.
13 years?
Yep.
Okay, so what happens 2 days before Easter? 2 days before Easter, in my bedroom, on my bed, where I'm not around, here is Tricia Fike's screenplay that the attorney took.
Shows back up.
And look at the heading on the top. It says, commented by, and here's her handwriting, Tricia Fike, October 7, 1995. Now, this is pre-96. Keep in mind, the reason they didn't want anything from pre-96 is because the Wachowskis didn't put Matrix title onto a screenplay until they were greenlighted to steal the work in 95, 96. So that's why the attorneys were laundering it out and taking it. But this is showing up in the house 2 days before Easter, this Easter.
Wow.
It's restored with all the comments through it.
They're trying to help you bring this back out?
Yeah, and it's not the attorneys from Warner Brothers. We know that.
Yep. Oh, no.
This would be the agency.
Somebody.
Yeah, somebody. But that's not
somebody good in the CIA, I guess.
Yes. Which I liked your comment about. I've been on programs saying, basically that, agents are bad, but whatever. But what's interesting is in my work, I have the agents as the good guys in the end.
Yeah,
the architect purges them, right?
Yep.
And they are the ones that join Underground and Neo to save the day. It's happening in real life.
Yeah. I can tell you, like when I worked in the CIA, we knew who the bad guys were. But most of us that were doing the good work, we kept to ourselves, and it's like they're in some kind of other program. Let's just do what we're doing and we can make an impact. Whatever funny business they're doing, eventually we're going to overcome them. And I think we're at that point.
Right.
So you can't speak out because everything's compartmentalized. And if you go out of your box, out of your compartmentalization, then you can get in a lot of trouble.
Right.
You can be, you're exposing our work, and now you're going to jail.
Well, I liken it to a math.
You can't do that.
Right. I liken it to a math.
But now
problem.
we're seeing it.
You're
we're
right.
seeing it now.
Right. Now it's happening. And
Good guys are doing it.
I like what you said, like they were waiting for the right time. Because I liken it to doing a complex math problem. If you're going to approach a complex math problem and you're only able in your capacity to address the first part of it, and you're the only one working on it, there's no sense solving that problem until you have the faculties and the abilities to solve the whole problem. So if that makes any sense for mathematics out there. But this is also what showed up. Look at this. Now, keep in mind, again, anything pre-1996, and they certainly didn't want anything that was 1993 pre the poor man's patent. All right. Now, the poor man's patent is done in July 1993. And look what shows up on my bed. The draft from March 21st, 1993, the first draft. And even the address on here is before I'm working with the Rockefellers in 1993, mid-1993. And you can see on here too, in the column up there, and look at the mold on it. So the column on the top is just January, like right after Christmas of 93, January 94, corrections added to this very piece. This is historic.
The Immortals.
Yes.
The Immortals.
Which is what they copyright.
Yeah.
They even claim they do not copyright claim the Matrix title. That was the Wachowskis' invention off the letters of the Immortals. They're claiming the Immortals. That's what Tom Hanks was commissioned for. So look at this materials being restored to our home, which wins our case. This is what they worked so hard to steal, and what Rankin was hired to steal, that attorney from Maui with a suspended license. George Michael didn't have to die. But I do appreciate the men and women in the agencies that are doing this, because I can't imagine anybody else unless it's Santa Claus, or God himself.
Yeah.
But they'd have to recreate this or get this somehow from the files.
So yeah, we're looking at 32 years back. 32 years.
Yeah.
So somebody's had this somewhere in a file cabinet or vault, something. somewhere probably in CIA headquarters, where there's compartmentalized stuff. CIA headquarters is like, it's voluminous.
So it's,
all right?
yeah.
And it's not just in one area. There's multiple areas throughout DC and all over the country, really. Denver, all kind of crazy places.
Right.
So who knows where this particular group is working at that has, got access to this information, and they've been told to like keep it, away while they're creating the Matrix series, the bad guys really, and probably the good guys are like, dang it, so we get our chance, we're gonna crush this. And so now they're helping you. So who would have the information to begin with for all this time? Who would have access to Tom's movements? All right, so somebody's got some intel going on, and who would have the ability to go through the lock, right? Surreptitiously go through the lock so no one sees, and then come in, place it on the bed, and then leave surreptitiously, and no one sees.
Exactly. I got to tell you,
there's very few organizations that can do this, guys.
Right. Thank you for sharing that too, Michael.
Yeah.
And what I want to point out too is what Michael's doing right now. This is the first time this has been shown or aired in this way. So God bless Michael for what he's doing right now, because this is the first time audiences, you're the first audiences to see this all unfolding. And the question is rising, who did this?
Yeah.
And the only thing I can say is agencies.
Right.
So
let's relax a little bit. So we've shown all the paperwork.
Well, almost all.
Oh,
there's more that was on the stack.
Okay. You got another one.
There's more. There's four the crucial evidence screenplays. This is from '93, and it was laid on the bed. It's like they had access to the total files. And Michael, I'm surprised they didn't destroy these things.
So how many screenplays did you write that they stole?
I mean, I think the fair question would be, it's a good one, but I think it's how many derivatives were done off the original
derivatives.
work.
That's right.
Yeah.
So let's go down that rabbit hole, because they took pieces of all of this of his work and made movies, whole movies out of them,
using up the rest of the story.
Tell us some of the movies they made from your work.
Elysium was just like point blank. And if you listen to the directors in charge, or the writer directors that take the work or given the work, Blomkamp, for whatever his name is, who did District 9, he said writing is like pulling teeth for him. You can find it in articles, I think, if you Google search this. And he also said that what attracted him most to what he claims he wrote, what attracted him most to the screenplay that he claims he wrote, was that it was the scene with the barbed wire and the people looking through the barbed wire at the world they couldn't be part of, across the barbed wire with the pods and the helicopters flying over, because he did District 9. So that really, that's the train station scene from The Immortals that you're not allowed to see within 20 feet. So they gave him that. And in that, they even have it where the shard of glass is used to cut out the baddie's enhancer. And in fine Wachowski style of overblowing everything, if you remember Elysium, they take it, instead of doing like we did, where the enhancer is simply with a new adaptive collar to use Smith's memories, Thomas A., the Neo, uses Smith's memories. They have a box about this big that goes on the back of the neck and shows exactly what he's thinking and seeing out of the memories. It's like insane. I mean, you were an operative. Would you wear something on the back of the neck that shows everybody behind you exactly what you're thinking? I mean, that's real covert. That's going in unnoticed, where it's like, that's a cloaking device. But everything was in there, even the picture falling from the hand that was used in Braveheart later. And they chopped it up and just, chop-chopped it. And it's like, as the person's dying and downloading.
They even use it in Braveheart?
Yeah, Braveheart. Mel Gibson was brought in to launder the work by Joel Silver. Check it out in Forever Young. In 1993, when this went in, they did Forever Young. And they credit Mel Gibson, not to burst bubbles, but this needs to be all honestly out there.
Sure.
Mel Gibson was brought in by Joel Silver and Warner Brothers to first launder the work and became the claimant for Wachowski's coming to California. Now, some of these fans may know of the work that will know this, is that Mel Gibson is credited with discovering the Wachowskis. Discovering what? They were working on Predator.
Oh, wow. Mel Gibson's credited?
Yeah, Mel Gibson's credited with discovering the Wachowskis. Wow, and as that cover story goes, he then is given Forever Young. Huh. And I think fans of that work would know. But that's the beginning of the work. So he just took the beginning of the work, which is, also Outbreak with the running through the jungle, the monkey and the lab coats people running through the jungle and lowering down from the canopy and the boots are pounding by. Exact shot description right in the opening here. And right into Forever Young, where get this. They have Mel Gibson playing the Allied officer who's cryogenically preserved, right? And I hate the way he brought him back. That's not the way it was done in here. But they bring him back and he goes out to find his wife, Helen, right, Michael?
Yeah.
And she has aged and he hasn't. Well, in this, the officer is actually a former SS officer because it's the architects guys that are being experimented on, including a Jewish man that's running with this SS officer who wants to do something good for others. And at least they're secondaries. They are the field of pods in the facility, secondaries that match the primaries physically of the architect's top 100 so we can bring them back in our time. That's the field of pods, not battery power, not hooking up humans for power. That's insane. Wow. You are the person that did all the strenuous activities. You know, our hearts can barely run a Volkswagen. So even that. So it's like, you know, why are we going to farm us for powers? You hook up cows, you get a lot more power, a better engine, right? More reliable, and you worry about free will. But anyway, so in this, our character is coming back and seeks out his wife named Helena. So Helena, German version of Helen. So Mel Gibson's given it where he goes and finds Helen. It's insane. So they launder it immediately. Joel Silver, in fact, Joel Silver, it wasn't the Wachowskis that enter it, the storyboard or the story department at Warner Brothers. It's Joel Silver, according to Teresa Wayne at the story department, the head of the story department, says that Joel Silver entered it without the Wachowskis in 94, before the Wachowskis even claimed ownership of anything in 95. It was Joel Silver that gave it to the Wachowskis to claim after they passed all the candidates, when he auditioned them, as he claimed it, with Bound. They had to prove at least they could direct, and then they're given the work, which goes back to our original point that all pre-1995, 96 scripts had to be, destroyed, or in this case, put in a vault and not returned until the agency decided it would be the right time.
Right. So this is fascinating. All these different people that are involved in this. Mm-hmm. It's you wonder, what capacity are they involved? How are they good guys or the bad guys? Are they just part of the whole thing? Because we know that Hollywood pretty much is all corrupt. Are there some that are not corrupt? Because we've been led to believe that Mel Gibson is not corrupt. So yeah. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, the only time I think Mel Gibson really, honestly, from what we can see on the airwaves, told the genuine truth was when he was raving, when he was inebriated, when he went off about the Zionists in Hollywood. He was telling the truth then, but then he was slapped back to apologize to Zionists on the air.
Really?
So, yeah, he was brought back to apologize for everything he said, but he said everything when he was inebriated. So maybe he has a couple drinks, he'll tell the truth again. But the thing is, that's what's going on. But I think it's just fascinating that these things being restored, which includes this one, just if I can throw it in. This is the original 1993 also that went to my friend Greg Mazer. And you can see the inscription right on there. It's sloppily written, and then the insert here from Greg returning it back in, this is from January 1st, 2010, where he's moving to Thailand. And he does this whole affidavit about how this was the 1993 script and it was fully written, which the chagrin of Warner Brothers. And this had disappeared also. And now it's restored. So wow. God bless whoever's doing this.
Yes.
And you're actually completing what the story said, that in the end, the agents switched sides. But what's chilling, I think, Michael, is in the story itself, they're being purged. Is there a purge that's going to happen in the agencies?
I think so.
I don't know.
I believe there's a purge that's been happening. And I believe that the good agents are coming forward and pressing out. Because, when someone has power, they have power. Mm-hmm. And they can suppress everyone under them. So the people that have been suppressed are starting to rise up.
Right.
And they're actually able to do what they did for you, reveal this stuff. And they're not going to reveal their identity because then you'll get sidetracked.
No.
Just stay focused. We'll help you. This is, I think, what's happening. And I think this is what's happening right now with the Trump administration.
Right.
And with a lot of things that we're seeing, that a lot of systems are collapsing while other systems are being built and being focused on. So it's an incredible time, but it's also a time of destruction. Now, my question to you is, you are obviously an amazing creator. You tap in.
Yeah.
You bring information down that is like very, very valuable for humanity. The dark side does not have this creativity. Mm-mm. They have to steal it. What is that? Why don't they have the creativity? What stops them?
That's a great question, Michael. I think it's because they don't have that humility and compassion. I mean, the things that I really firmly believe, I went through that training. And when I was approached with that idea, I thought, well, I'm one of the most compassionate people I know,
Absolutely.
like you know, I thought we all attract each other to work together. And it's like, I thought, what am I missing? But they taught me that it was a discipline. It was a discipline, and no one really had it yet. So I was like, okay, because the words were, I looked for someone and found no one. And I was like, I'll do it. But I had no idea what I was volunteering for. And it was like, wow, you know, but I'm glad it was done. And I'm glad we're at the end of this story of that. We're now getting into that. Like you said, things have changed. Now it's like we're in favor and everything's switching around. And it's like that commercial where they go Bob's Highway and Bob's Light and Bob's Lane. It's like that right now. Everything's opening up so well. Probably why I'm here. But I think addressing the question you just asked about, give me the question again, because I just layered out of it.
Yeah. So, you know, the dark side doesn't have the creativity.
Right.
So they have to steal the creativity.
Right.
And you're saying that because
Compassion.
they don't have the humility and compassion.
That's what I told
and
Disney.
That's absolute. They're psychopaths. They're psychos, you know, and they want to control, they want to manipulate, they get off on like doing horrible things to children, you know, and they just love that. It's like the essence of innocence. They want to take that and control that and disrupt that on a
it's like the magic pedophile kingdom.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, what
you try to bring that out in your storyline.
Absolutely. In the train
Immortals
station scene.
/ Matrix.
Yeah, train station scene. That's what it's all about. And the Wachowskis on their fan page say, you know, well, the train station scene, little girl is just a subplot. That's all they said, just a subplot. The little girl at the train station is key to basically everything and to a satisfying ending. She's key.
Wow.
And it represents the daughter I lost. The writers, of course, I'm writing from a place of passion and hope, you know, to reunite a family that was taken from me. So it's like Wachowski's asking about it. It's like that's important to them, like picking an apple that's rotten off a tree and discarding it. It doesn't mean anything to them. To the original author, it means everything. So, yeah. But compassion, I have a tape from a Disney exec, a Disney attorney, where they're talking to me and they're saying things like, you know, you have to, like, I was having a conversation and I said, why was this done to my family? And I may have mentioned this before, but I think it's very important in that the answer was given. They said, well, you were getting too close. Basically, you were doing interviews, you know, you were daring to face us down is the main quote, daring to face us down. Now that's a mouthful. And then they said, you have to understand. I said, well, what about having compassion and humility? I just pointed right out to them. And they go, you have to understand, it's all about power for us, all about power. It's on the tape. And I said, well, you know, compassion actually means that your creativity will be better. If you're writing from a place of compassion, your writers are doing that, you'll have better work because you're doing it as a service to your audience. Yeah. Instead of thinking about what the Wachowskis were promised when Dino Laurentiis took them to dinner, when Mel Gibson brought them supposedly to Dino Laurentiis, they failed at everything. And their mom said all they did was play video games. Dino Laurentiis promises them beautiful women, starlets, fame, and money. Well, if that's your motivation, your work's going to suck. Yeah. Using the vernacular. So you got to do it as a heartfelt, passionate service to your audience. And so that's why I'm actually looking forward to having the film made the way it originally is and watching people tie together. Now, the other side is saying no one's going to come and see it. It's already been done. Well, that means you took it, you know? And, but I think, love it or hate it, people will come to see how it ties together and we can finally lay this to rest. And I don't think it would be anything like the other one. No. Well, if you take it, like, again, take it this way, where you're lifting everything out into a visual storyboard to reach shop it, and you don't understand what it means, well, then you're not going to come up with a good product, and you're going to have everybody on set, as they said, saying, blow it up to end it. Of course. Yeah. Blow it up to end it. Yeah. If you're trying to, like, you know, copy the Matrix, that's it. The Immortals the Matrix was stolen from the Immortals. Right. Pieces of it and manipulated. Right. So the Immortals will be completely different. There's nothing like it. The story is nothing like it in Hollywood right now. Right. And that's why they had to come in and take it. So Tracy in the chat had a really good input where she's talking about how goodness has never been allowed to study evil. We've been suppressed and so forth from doing that. But I believe that we're starting to understand. We're starting to call out evil. Exactly. Like what we're doing right now, we're calling evil out. Well, that's what's so great about doing this interview right here in your own home. This means a lot to me because we're two of the best candidates, I think, for addressing that very thing. Sure. We do understand what goes on the other side.
Oh,
We were both groomed, if you allow me that term,
Sure.
by the other side. We worked with the other side.
Right.
We were looked at as assets by the other side.
Mhm.
So we would know how they tick and how their playbook
Both of
works.
us weren't controllable.
No, we would. We were.
That's why we got pushed out, and they came after us in very evil,
Very much
ugly ways,
the worst ways possible.
both of us. And and here we are. We're back.
Yeah.
And we're coming at them, but they're still impacting you, even though they're giving you script. It's not like oh, everything's roses now. When you were coming here, your vehicle broke down.
Right.
Very strangely, and the person you're going to meet, their vehicle broke down.
Right. Which was a crucial meeting.
Right.
So we're reverse engineering the whole tactic system they employed
Mhm.
and beating it that way, which includes protection by doctors who can then stop the 302s and the
Mhm.
false claims.
Right.
Because that's
False
what they do for
claims,
us. Yeah, they try to do that. So, but I think
they try to destroy your credibility.
Right, exactly.
And once they've destroyed your credibility, they could come in and rob you and put you in jail and put you in mental institutions, all kind of crazy stuff, guys. Kill your children.
Mhm.
All right. So you don't know exactly all the different things that they can cover this stuff up. You never know how it's going to come at you or your family, your friends. It's a rough game.
It is. And the condolences again, Michael, on your situation, because I think we're some of the few that can understand what that's like, and Hollywood talks about that. And
I know what you went through now.
Well,
God, you unless you have lost a child, you can commiserate with someone, but until you've actually had that experience, I mean, you can prepare yourself for it. It's like I'm involved with this, or my son is doing this, and maybe it's going to come. But when it happens, it's crushing. It's absolutely crushing.
It never leaves you,
and it never leaves you.
No,
never leaves you.
And it's hard because you have to keep going and get the jobs done. And so it's almost like you postpone your grief. For me, it was.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to grieve. It was like I felt like in their honor, I had to complete the work.
I agree.
But these tactics they employ that include this to go after what matters to you most, I am looking forward to that book being shredded and a better world. And what's interesting is many of the agents that came up to me throughout this timeline have said they're fans of the work and they admire the courage. And so it's even those that were assigned to give me trouble, even attorneys would say that. So I think we're looking at a timeline that was destined to converge back to its proper alignment. And I think that's what
those people that approach you like that, and the people that approach me and have come at me in different ways, given the option, the real option, instead of like, you'll do this work or otherwise, you'll lose your job or you lose everything, and we'll come after you. Just like you see what we've done to them, we'll do 10 times that to you. So of course they're going to come and do their job on us. So I think those people are starting to realize that's no longer an issue. That's huge.
Right. And you know what I got to credit, Michael? It just came to me. That is audiences that have a big hand in this. They believed audiences are dumb. I don't mean to insult, but they really do. And Spielberg illustrates that all the time. Anytime you see Public illustrated in Spielberg's pieces like, Men in Black, where they walk in the living room, like I said, and get the weapons and they're just standing there with their mouth open, just dumbstruck and remain dumbstruck. It's like, I think what's happening is, if you go back to that Disney call where the attorney was saying, you got the word out and that's what made you win the chess game. So audiences getting it is what's defeating the whole strategy. So kudos to those that got it, that have been vocal about getting it, for both Michael and myself and others like us. You're the ones that are facilitating the victory.
We couldn't do this work without everybody being involved.
They didn't count on you getting it. They did not count on you getting it.
I didn't count on it, but it's been huge. And this is why we've been able to not only continue, but actually grow.
Exactly.
And now we're growing again. And we're going to get all the stuff that they took from us. We're going to get all back, and we're going to take it to the next level like we meant to begin with.
And we'll keep using it as we're intended, with humility and compassion for good.
Absolutely.
And that's what I believe, if we go back to what are the sources of all this material? Is there a God and all that? That yes, it shows the benevolence of our Father, our creators, whatever you believe, because I don't think we have the full picture yet. And in that, it shows that I think it's designed that we really have to work together if we want a good ending. We're given pieces. I was given my piece for the screenplay and all the stuff in it. And if we work together, we're gonna have that better world. And that says something about our creator.
Yeah.
You know.
So we're moving into that zone, I believe, zone of consciousness where we can work together and create on a massive scale. And those people that have been suppressed in 3-letter agencies, they can start to rise up and assume leadership roles instead of the ones that are there now.
That's something too. I'm glad you said that I've seen with the stolen, like it's like the hijacked timeline. The other side seems to pride themselves with putting us into low-level positions or positions that are the opposite of what would be in the actual unadulterated timeline.
Yep.
And so I think there's so many people out there, even listening in, that you have a major part to play in the restored timeline. And you know you have the gifts, you know you have the abilities, and you probably feel like you've been misplaced. You have been. And so it's like, now I look forward to, it's almost like a game of charades, or that thing where you wear the name tag of some famous person and they guess who you are, where it's like we could get a sense of who we are and what our aptitudes are. You may see a big reversal on a lot of people in careers and things like this, where we come into what we would be if the timeline had not been hijacked and altered and they played God.
Right.
So, yeah.
So what do you see with these people that are kind of sketchy that we're talking about now, the Elon Musks and
from what I understand, the adage of keep your enemies close is being employed, and that they fall by their ego. It's their ego and pride, which is almost like an inebriated man. An inebriated man thinks he's making sense, thinks he's being clever, seems to life of the party, but he's actually looking like the opposite. And he reveals himself quite well when he stumbles over the cat on the couch. So what you got is, I think that's what's happening, not to pick, but Elon is definitely inebriated with self-pride and ego right now. And I think that's causing him to make big mistakes, such as Heil Hitler. So I just think that, you know, he's stumbling himself. And I think the powers to be are letting him do that. Again, man tries to outwit God, God outwits man. And this thing I just saw recently was the whole thing about him saying, we're now going to create God in our own image. Well, if you're saying you're going to create God in your own image, you are on the final pages of my screenplay. And let's put George Michael back in with his song, Praying for Time, because you are now inadvertently converging back into what it's supposed to be. You just proved the screenplay right that was downloaded and faithfully downloaded with compassion and humility, where now I get to meet other great people that have compassion and humility. We certainly all been put to the test.
Yeah, and I think that compassion and humility is coming for them as well. Because I think that once those people that have gone down the dark path, once they see that that is not going to lead to anywhere, and that the path of light is the path that everyone's moving towards now, many of them will come off. So everyone, I believe, has a spark of light, of goodness within them. Some choose to go the dark side because they're groomed sometimes to be part of the dark side. And very rarely we've seen some people that have basically broken free from that dark path and have moved into levels of goodness and have exposed stuff.
Right.
So, I mean, you were being groomed to go down the dark path.
Absolutely.
And you broke free.
I said no to there was these, what I think people realize a lot is that there's prompting questions that we go through. I don't know if you experience that too, where it's like they ask you certain questions. It's almost like an exam you graduate with. And if you answer the questions in their terms properly, then you advance. If you don't, then you're a red flag to them. Like, you care too much is a phrase I heard so much. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
And it's like that means that you're not passing the test, that you could be somebody who thinks with your heart. And that's a big no-no according to the organization. Mm-hmm. What I think, Michael, too, is that a lot of us are going to go through a quandary where we have to search our souls. Are we going to forgive these guys and ladies? I mean, it's like we have to face that now. And where do you draw the line? Because so many people are in a gray area that have maybe felt afraid to move forward when they were called upon, which may be labeled cowardice, or it's just human nature for some, where they're afraid for factors that we don't know. Sure. So it's hard unless we're in their shoes. But it's like, where do you draw the line with who is culpable for, and can, in the screenplay itself, the architect's son, they left that out. The architect's son takes the place of his father, the architect, by taking his neural link and putting it in and having all his memories and feelings. They left it out. It's actually a really important piece. I think that's pretty cool, where you become your father And he even says, now we are one after killing him and taking his Neuralink. I think it's kind of cool. I think it's pretty fascinating. They left that out. They couldn't think that far, like Neuralink with Elon. But the thing is, like, what's interesting now is in that final scene, the architect's son falls on his knees before the identical figure is made to look like Christ, begging forgiveness when he realizes the bullets aren't going to work, you know? And keep in mind, they actually kept the same scene where Neo is pummeled by Smith. Yeah. And he looks down and only his palms are dripping blood and looks up. That's from the original The Immortals. So the Wachowskis did keep the exact ending. Because that's
so that scene has been replicated in real life. And I'm going to have a woman on that has done it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'll be sure to watch that program.
Yeah, that's amazing. So we're moving into this level of consciousness where we are literally creating these things, guys. And that's what is waking everyone up. Everyone, would you like to be able to do that? Would you like to manifest on an incredible fast level? Whether you like it or not, that's where we're at. So the dark side is losing control because they can't have that creativity and manifest like we can. So we're outpacing them. So we're manifesting the good faster than they create the evil and fear to try and control us.
Exactly.
And we're all racing together forward and outpacing them.
That's the beauty of this whole story, of all our stories. Mm-hmm. It was meant for everyone, this particular piece, but we're all crossing the line together. We're all being victorious together. It was written, my piece was given to me, that the code in it basically was that great people of humility and compassion would come together from cross disciplines and solve the world's problems. It makes sense. Mm-hmm. Think tanks are the biggest thing right now in Washington and other places. Think tanks really hold the power. Yeah. Think tanks come up with the plans. Why not have a benevolent think tank? And that's what I believe God gave us. So, when you see organizations, and not just in writing and art, but also in invention and creativity in other ways, health and other things, like your LifeWave organization is, when I heard David Schmidt talking, it's like it has a benevolent core. Yeah. And so you're seeing things tie together from all disciplines, all markets, all kinds of things, where we're going to see, even in currency and everything else, come with a heart of benevolence in it. So is this turning into God's world? I think so. Yeah. And we who have had been fortunate to walk the walk are now, like the end of Troy, the movie Troy, I got to stand with heroes. And that's how I feel, Michael. And that's how I feel right here. And with people even tuning in, I got to stand with heroes. And I wouldn't trade this for the world. Wow. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. So, Tom, how can people reach you if they want to?
I have a beautiful young lady who formed the website for me. And I said, well, I always forget the names when I'm talking. She goes, I'll make it easy for you. I'll call it tomalthouse.com. So can't miss it. It doesn't help me with a Warner Bros. Claim of egotistical. But the thing is, she came up with it as a memorable item is what it really was. So tomalthouse.com, you can see a lot of the stuff there. I'll be going on Roseanne Barr's show the 29th and some other shows coming up. But this is a golden moment for me right now to be here in your home. And thank you for graciously inviting me. And so God bless your audience too. You guys really are the heroes out there that have supported Michael and stood with him, because like Michael said, that's what's allowing us to win. That's what's affecting the other side. I could talk to on blue. I could show you all the evidence, but unless the audiences believe it, they're not going to flinch on the other side, but they'll crumble when you do. So God bless you.
God, that's beautiful. Beautiful, Tom. Thanks a lot for sharing.
Sure thing.
And you guys know the deal. Stay in the love vibration. We'll see you guys next time.